This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Winona City Council. Votes will be conducted on a voice call rather than a roll call unless requested by a member. This evening, I have a couple announcements. I wanted to make a few brief comments related to the appointment of a city manager. At the October 18th City Council meeting, the council approved a motion to designate Director of Community Services, Assistant City Manager Chad Ubel to perform the duties of City Manager while that position is vacant. The language of this motion is consistent with specific city charter language. This was described in the request for council action document that you received for that meeting. Based on this, Chad Ubel is acting city manager and performs everything the city manager must do under law, charter, code, job description, other governing documents, and city council direction. I feel that clarifying this is important for the council, city staff, and the public. Going forward, the council will need to appoint a regular city manager. While there is no specific timeline that we must follow to appoint a regular city manager, I would suggest that we do something on this relatively soon, but hold off on doing anything for at least a couple months so that we can get through this temporary transition, approve the city budget, and close out the year. Then we can address this at a future meeting next year. Through our action at the October 18th meeting, we determined that Chad Ubel is properly qualified to perform the duties of city manager during this transitionary time. I am confident the city will continue to run efficiently and effectively with him taking on these duties. I have a proclamation this evening. Whereas every child is a precious and unique gift who deserves the security of a loving and nurturing home. When supported by encouraging families and safe, strong communities, all children have the chance to reach their full potential and access the unlimited opportunities that our great community has to offer. To realize this truth, we must dedicate ourselves to the noble cause of protecting and caring for our children. Whereas National Child Abuse Prevention Month is an annual reminder that not every home is a haven of acceptance and unconditional love. Too often, childhood is marred with pain, violence, neglect, and abuse, which can have lifelong psychological, emotional, and physical consequences. At no fault of their own, some children are subjected to some of the most depraved forms of child abuse and neglect, without reprieve and sometimes without any knowledge that they are being maltreated. The statistics are shocking. A quarter of all children experience some form of child abuse or neglect in their lifetime. The financial consequences of this depravity are dire. By some estimates, the lifetime cost of child abuse and neglect is $124 billion per year. The human cost, measured in lost development, potential, and flourishing, is incalculable. Whereas, to improve the statistics and the well-being of our community's children, we must become more aware of the signs and symptoms of child abuse and take action as necessary. We should not allow pride or discomfort to prevent us from helping a child who is truly suffering. We must be a community committed to taking action in the face of adversity and uncertainty, particularly when done to enhance the safety or security of children. Whereas this month, we honor the professionals, volunteers, and organizations who work tirelessly to protect at-risk children and care for those who have experienced abuse or neglect. This difficult work is critical to ensuring the safety and protection of our children, to strengthening our communities, and to stopping cycles of violent harm. There are no substitutes for caring parents and guardians, but we recognize that friends, neighbors, educators, and places of worship have important roles to play in fostering the well-being of children. We are especially grateful to foster and adoptive parents who open their lives to children in need of loving and caring homes. We can and should continue to work together to help provide happy, healthy, and safe environments for all children. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Scott Sherman, hereby proclaim the month of November 21 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of Winona, Minnesota. I encourage all Winonans to nurture the children in their lives and to extend a hand to those in need of love, protection, or even just attention. Only together can we put an end to the tragedy of child abuse and neglect. I am confident that our combined efforts in combating these evils will help create a world that is more tender, compassionate, and inviting to our children for centuries to come. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Winona to be affixed this day of November 1, 2021. Lastly, I was lucky enough to attend an event last weekend, a cleanup event for the ice park that we have recently acquired in the past few years here. I would like to thank the Recreation Alliance of Winona for hosting the volunteer event at Sugarloaf this past Saturday. 37 volunteers teamed up to remove invasive plant species such as buckthorn, honeysuckle, and oriental bittersweet from the area. This is another great example of a partnership between the city and a nonprofit working together for the benefit of the Winona community. I will now ask this, city manager comments, please.
Mayor and council, thanks for the time this evening, but I have no comments.
Okay, very good. I will now ask the city clerk to take roll call.
Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Councilman Young.
Here.
Moeller. Here. Alexander. Iden.
Here.
Worzakowski.
Here.
Krupinsky.
Present. A reminder that the public is not allowed to speak during these agenda items unless you have a request before the council, and I have given you permission to speak.
Under the petitions, requests, and communications, item 3.1 is an application for an off-sale 3-2 malt liquor license for the Imart store at 920 Mankato Avenue.
I make a motion to approve the liquor license.
Second.
We have a motion from Eileen, a second from Steve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.2 is a temporary wine and malt liquor licenses for Hurryback Productions for the dates of November 20th and December 4th.
I make a motion to approve the licenses.
Second.
We have a motion from Eileen, a second from Steve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.3 is the premises permit for lawful gambling for the Goodview Winona Hockey Association to be used at Sliced Restaurant, 66 Center Street.
Make a
Move to approve the attached resolution.
second.
We have a motion from George, a second from Eileen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.4 is a request for a stop sign on King Street and to make King Street through street from Hamilton to Mankato.
I would motion to introduce the attached ordinance.
Second
Yeah.
that.
We have a motion from George, a second from Pam. Any discussion? Go ahead, Pam.
I would like to know how many other intersections in town where there are sight lines that are not adequate. So I think this is, it takes some research. We are approving 3 of these intersections to be controlled now. I'd like to know how many are uncontrolled for the same reasons. Just look ahead a little bit.
Sure. Thank you, Pam. Go ahead, Steve.
If I could just add a brief comment that while I intend to support this motion and perhaps another similar one, it seems we're coming at these stop signs kind of haphazard. We seem to have these stop sign requests frequently, and I'm not opposed to all of them. I'm really trying to operate by method, though, that I can, and I understand there's reasons for each one, but I'd really like it if we could have maybe if engineering at some point could comment on overall traffic patterns and having throughway streets. And I understand this is to make a throughway street. That's fine. That's good. And I'm going to support that. But we're doing this every other meeting, it seems. Can we get a blueprint and say, this is what we do? Okay, so enough. Thank you.
I
Thank you,
would,
Steve.
that was my point as well, to
Yep.
see how many there are.
George, you had a comment?
Yes, and in approval of this one, the next one just makes that whole area more consistent now with the stops going north and south, so.
Thank you, George. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.5 is a request for stop sign on Howard Street, and this would make Howard through from Hamilton to Mankato.
I would motion to introduce the attached resolution.
I'd second
Second.
that.
We have a motion from George, a second from Eileen. Any discussion? Go ahead, George.
With approval of this, it's through street now all the way through from 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way through up to 10th. So it's again, being all consistent again, along with the north and south stop signs as well too.
Thank you, George. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.6 is a request for a four-way stop at the intersection of Broadway and Baker.
Make a motion to deny the proposed ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion from Eileen, a second from Steve. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Pam.
Yes, I noticed that really the numbers are pretty close here. If you take a look at the number that are required versus the number that we've got, it's pretty close. And as a matter of fact, the vehicles going on Broadway Street average more than what is required. So I'm not sure if this is wise to just turn this away. How many accidents have there been at this intersection this year?
This year.
Yes, you said in the last 5 years, there have been 12, but how many have there
I
been?
don't think I have this year on me. I want to say in the last 12 months, it's been maybe 3-ish.
Okay,
I don't know for sure. It's around that number though.
okay, well, I would say that this is a worthy place for a for a four-way stop.
I'd like to comment on that, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I don't know if a four-way stop is the most advantageous area right there, just because that's where the Quick Trip is. If that's the intersection where Quick Trip is, and creating a four-way stop there, I think you're really bottlenecking traffic trying to go in and out of that Quick Trip. And I think you're going to hurt business for that Quick Trip by doing that. So I'm in support of denying that request simply because of where it is in the business that's on the corner right there.
Eileen?
I made this motion because this is basically right behind my house and I walk through this intersection all the time and I drive through it almost daily, several times a day. And there is not too far west of this, a railroad crossing, and then there is a four-way stop at Vila. So it would just be pushing all of that traffic back. So I think Quick Trip would do just fine, whether there was a stop sign there or not. My concern with these things is always safety of pedestrians and drivers. And I think that this would actually make it slightly more dangerous because, you know, the through traffic should go on Broadway. So.
Yeah, and I live a couple blocks from there as well. And again, I generally will look at these from a safety or consistency aspect. And I have a 1 and a 3-year-old pushing in you go up there for ice cream sandwiches to Quick Trip quite a bit. So I've never felt unsafe at that intersection crossing Broadway. So from my own personal perspective, it seems as though having a stop sign there would probably just cause more congestion.
Right, well, we all know that we want to go really fast on Broadway, so I understand that.
Yeah.
Just look at if you look at the numbers though, we're pretty close to what's
Yes, we are.
required.
And I think, Mayor,
Please.
that part of Broadway does actually narrow more than the other parts of Broadway where people are, am I correct on that?
Yeah.
So where it's wider, people are speeding, which is why we've wanted to narrow the road before, but there it's not the case. And I don't think people speed there quite as much. Yeah.
Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor to deny the request, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is denied.
And moving on to item 3.7 is the Winona Heritage Preservation Commission 2020 and 21 annual report. And Luke Sims is here if you have any questions or presenting questions.
Is he going to present at the public hearing?
You're going to present at the public hearing?
Mayor and council, this is not a presentation. This is just for your reference and any questions. So if you have any questions for me, I am here. This is one of our requirements to maintain certified local government status. So this will also be going to the State Historic Preservation Office for file there too.
Mhm.
Thank you, Luke. Any questions of Luke? Go ahead, Pam.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And so Luke, I appreciate reading this. I especially appreciated reading about the upcoming preservation priorities. I like that list, but I am confused about citywide windshield survey. What would that mean? What is that?
The city of Winona. The city of Winona is required to maintain updated surveys of the entire community. The last citywide survey was conducted in 1990 to 1993. So we are approaching 30 years. It is quite dated. There have been significant changes to neighborhoods, and a significant number of buildings have also aged into the 50-year period by which they are allowed to be nominated to the National Register of Historic Places. That period that time period is very rarely waived. The most recent example was probably Prince and his associated properties in the last couple of years. So we would be looking at updating that survey. It does take multiple years. The HPC would pursue grant funding to provide the financial backing to conduct that survey.
So windshield survey just means you drive around and, okay.
It's quite exactly what it sounds like. What comes out of that is a historic context survey. So they document which houses are where, what type of house they are, which time period they are from, and whether or not they might have some historic significance. So our last survey does have a number of different maps and graphs associated with the overall age of our housing stock and other buildings, and whether or not they meet a certain architectural criteria and whether or not they might have some integrity. So then we can update all of our efforts, the city's efforts, the HPC's efforts, to make sure that we have accurate goals going forward. So addressing a property that would have historic integrity rather than biting off a project that probably would result in a denial before the National Register.
Thank you.
George, you had a comment?
Yes, on this building pictured here. No, that was the fire building, correct?
Correct.
Because I remember when that building caught fire, and then I believe it sat unattended for 2 years, 3 years, trying to get financing, this and that. And I believe it came back to the city council, not by unanimous vote, but to tell, the owner to either rectify it or tear it down, and it was going to be one more step of going to a judge to make that decision. So he got going on it then, and I'm glad to see that is now a beautiful building on that corner. So very good.
Absolutely. Thank you, George. Anyone else have any comments, discussion? I just want to thank the HPC for the work they've done this past year, and obviously in the upcoming year, and then Luke Sims as well as the staff member. So thank you.
Okay, moving on to new business. First of all, I should note item 3.8 is withdrawn for staff to do some more work on it. So moving on to item 5.1, the Minnesota Department of Transportation limited use permit for the Welcome to Winona sign.
I would move to adopt the attached resolution.
Second.
We have a motion from George, a second from Eileen. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Steve. I'll get you.
Question for engineering. Do we know where this sign will be reinstalled?
It'll just be moved 150 feet closer to the intersection.
Okay, so we have a location already spec'd out for it. Thank you. Okay.
Pam?
Oh, just on the map here, I have see this red box. It looks like it's turned parallel to Highway 61.
That's the previous item.
What?
You're looking at the previous item. I'm sorry. She's looking at.
No, okay, thank you. Thank you. I
Oh,
can turn the
I thought you
page.
said red bus.
There is a red box.
Oh, I thought that one was withdrawn.
My apologies, Pam. I thought you were talking about this red box.
No.
Different
Oh,
red
okay,
box.
okay. No, the other red
My bad.
box.
I'm sorry.
So my question is this really going to be turned parallel to Highway 61? Welcome to Winona facing Highway 61?
No, it will still be the same. I think that's just their representation of just showing where it'll be.
Okay,
It'll be built the same way.
okay, good.
I believe, I'm not sure, but in looking at the packet, I think there was just a slight little black line inside there. Yep.
That's just the lot mark.
Oh.
But that's the sign, but the
Yep.
red is the lot.
All right.
So
Well, I have
hopefully
lots of- I have
everybody
lots of
can
help
see
on
it.
this issue.
Absolutely, you bet. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 5.2 is the agreement for state aid for airport maintenance and operation.
Make a motion to approve the attached resolution.
Second.
We have a motion from Eileen, a second from Steve. Any discussion? Go ahead,
Now,
George.
Ryan, what are we doing here? We're gonna,
So this
we're
is
gonna
just,
get some money?
yep, this is just a grant that we've had for quite a few years. Essentially, we can get reimbursed for maintenance, utility costs, phone costs. I mean, pretty much day-to-day operations out there, we can get reimbursed from the state.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And item 5.3 is the JB Drive Phase 2 project certification of completion and final estimate.
I would motion to approve the attached resolution.
Second.
We have a motion from George, a second from Eileen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And item 7.1 is council concerns.
We'll start with Councilmember Borzakowski.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to say that I concur with your opening remarks of let's get the budget done and go into our search here probably sometime next year. So I agree with that. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, George. Councilmember Iden.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Mueller,
Nothing for me.
Councilmember Young.
I think going back to our stop sign challenge here, if we could, if staff could somehow, we keep having these onesie twosies, and I'm not opposed to them, but I'd like to get, I think there's probably still a lot of uncontrolled intersections. We had a fatality at one on Kansas Street. We have some, like the project that we did tonight, finalizing a through street with stop signs, good idea. But I think there's work to be done. And if we could get away from this onesie twosie and get done what we're going to get done with some sort of principle, I'd be in favor of.
Okay,
So thank you.
thank you, Steve.
Agree.
Councilmember Rupinsky.
Nothing to Mayor.
Okay, very good.
Moving on to the consent agenda, there are 6 items. The approval of the minutes from October 18th and 5 ordinances. 1 for 10-minute parking on Johnson by the library, 30-minute parking on Johnson, handicap space on Franklin, no parking, loading, unloading on Fifth Street by the Arts Center, and 2 handicap parking on Johnson by the library.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by George, second from Eileen. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Mayor, being 6:55, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Shortest
They
meeting
say.
so far.